please.
Kevin Tansky,
Here.
Andy Selchert,
Here.
Katie Gallagher,
Here.
Tony DeMarco,
Here.
Ron Van Kirk,
Here.
Kathy Pucci. Here. Mary Belbeer.
Here.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Under God.
We first have to approve the minutes from February 24th, 2014. Need a motion to approve.
Motion approved. Second.
To approve the minutes of February 24th, Kevin Tansky,
Yes.
Andy Selhertz,
Yes.
Katie Gallagher,
Yes.
Tony DeMarco,
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk,
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belbeer.
Yes.
Thank you. We will now proceed with our council meeting. Good evening, everybody. On behalf of council, I would like to express my condolences to the family of Dolores Scarano. Mrs. Scarano owned a dress shop in Brooklyn for many years, and her late husband, Frank, was the finance director for our city from 1968 to 1995. Since the last meeting, council met on March 18th for a special council meeting and passed ordinance 2014-18 by emergency measure, which authorized the mayor to enter into an agreement with Civil and Environmental Consultants Incorporated to provide engineering support for the sanitary landfill, an estimated amount of $30,000. The city was given 7 orders by the EPA for the closure of the landfill, and CEC will provide services to help complete 4 of those orders. After the special council meeting adjourned, the Public Works Committee met and selected Councilmember Andy Selhertz as their chair. The other members of the Public Works are Tony DeMarco and Kevin Tansky. That same night, council had a budget work session with the mayor and his administration to discuss the 2014 permanent budget, which is up for passage tonight. The final budget is approximately $4,748,000 more than the 2014 temporary appropriation. I will go over the significant changes from the original permanent budget that will be passed tonight as I amend ordinance 2014-12. Mrs. Pucci informed me that she will go over specific capital items during her finance report. New personnel additions were approved during the budget work session, and these include 3 new police officers, 1 full-time maintenance worker at the recreation center, a new laborer and seasonal secretary in the service garage. On a side note, each director submitted supporting evidence for his or her personnel request, and I think all of us were shocked to read the information provided by Police Chief Melky. I asked for his permission to share his data tonight because it made clear to council we need to increase the safety forces in our city. The chief's report showed that in 1976, our city had 31 police officers. During that year, they handled 8,400 calls and made 323 misdemeanor arrests and 21 felony arrests. Whereas in 2013, the police department had 1 less police officer than in 1976 and handled 22,243 calls, made 688 misdemeanor arrests, and 111 felony arrests. Our police officers are doing a great job right now with the limited resources, but it's clear they need more help. Thank you, Chief Melky, for such a thorough report. Tonight we have 7 ordinances on the agenda, 2 of which are new. The first new ordinance is 2014-19 that allows the mayor to enter into a service agreement with Bailey Communications to provide computer networking support. The price is $49,182.60 for the year, and this is a $2,342 increase from 2013. The second new ordinance is 2014-22, which is authorizing the service department to purchase a backhaul in the amount of $239,166. This money was allocated as part of the budget this year, and our Public Works Chair will give some more information on the specifics of this vehicle. At the end of tonight's meeting, council will adjourn into executive session to discuss the sale of public property and a matter relating to personnel. When we reconvene, there will be no further business. At this time, we will hold the public session. If anyone in the audience has anything for the good and welfare of the city of Brooklyn, please step forward and state your name and address, including your city, and you will be recognized. Please keep your comments to 5 minutes or less.
Tom Adamski, 9625 Melody Lane. So no one can accuse me of favoritism. I asked President Council that I might run a minute or two over, and I ask for your indulgence. First, I want to thank the many people that have called me. I had 3 major surgeries in the last 5 months, and knock on wood, they've been successful, and I'm on my road to recovery. I thank you for your thoughts and prayers. Public safety meeting was held March 20th. As many people know, I have campaigned, and considerably more so, about speeding. It's no secret. The good thing about the flyers was it got at least 17 more people. To me, that's not sufficient. The most common complaint to the police and to the council people is speeding. At all hours of the day, when I don't sleep, 3 o'clock in the morning, when I take off 6 o'clock in the morning, I see many things. Just the other day, I saw a squad car on Southwood. I won't mention the time, but it was early, and he was there observing traffic. Police can't be there 24/7, as we well know, but there has to be a solution. And Mr. Van Kirk, I give you kudos on having a well-organized presentation. I was very impressed by the Mr. Gruba from Opto Traffic. He was a former policeman. He answered the questions very well. And what I liked about the meeting was it gave an opportunity, not for people that may be apprehensive of coming and talking or being in front of a video, which there wasn't, but to answer and get an answer from the spokesperson, whether it took 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, without any interruption. And there was very good comments. The obvious is people take resentment, especially older people, about cameras. But there has to be a solution. Succinctly, Mr. Van Kirk has said, it's not about being a cash cow, it's all being about safety. I have seen too many close calls. I have witnessed older citizens who obey the traffic 25 miles an hour. Have an individual come behind, get apprehensive, there may be a car on one side or 2 sides, go right around that individual, speed up to the top. There's already been an accident from a car going too fast around the hill, I think it was during the winter, that hit the tree in front of Quick Fries. In the past of the safety meeting, the argument has been this: speed bumps, that people would go over there, would cause damage. From the legal point of view, they would sue the city. The other arguments about cameras. The legislation is not about the cameras, it's about the enforcement on a loophole. I firmly believe the answer is mobile cameras. The advantage of this is that it could be anywhere, especially in school zones, and this the spokesperson mentioned about. Obviously, we have other areas of Southwood, whether it be Benwood, Rodome. There is a speeding problem. It's whether people can see it or not, it is happening. Through that, the focus that I'm concerned about actually is Idawood. And Chief Milkey, I give him kudos and his people at all times to go, and there was a significant enforcement. And it doesn't matter whether the majority of the tickets or warnings were residents. When you take that key and turn that ignition, you have a responsibility to keep your eyes forward, to obey the traffic laws, not to be on the cell phone talking, to be looking, or be eating. It's that simple, but we all know it's not a perfect world. Again, I want to also thank our committee members, Katie Gallagher and Mary Bellbeer, for their time. And the presentation, and I don't want to take away the comments that Mr. Van Kirk was Opto Traffic. On another safety matter, I want to comment to the fire chief and ask for your comments at the time you speak. I witnessed something what I consider very tragic. A Sunday, somewhere around 2 o'clock, there was an emergency. Brooklyn's Finest came down. Lights were flashing, horns were blowing. Unfortunately, there was a traffic jam all the way from Hurricane Ellie all the way to Bidoff. And what also was unfortunate, that the timing of the lights was going this way and this way. And I would estimate that there was about a 5-minute delay. What I am suggesting and recommending this, even though there are cones, they are spaced, and so far, a vehicle could easily go in. So what I am suggesting, if it's legal, to have a flashing sign to say that if there's an emergency vehicle and the traffic is blocked in front, which is obviously don't want to have a head-on collision because they're concerned about traffic. I was on the other side of Ridge Road in Bidoff, and I put my blinkers on. I put my hand out there to try to get the people that were turning in, and the horn was blowing and whatnot. Finally, the traffic came in. In a life and death situation, we all know the golden hour. So that's my suggestion, Chief, and I would ask that you make comments to that. On another matter, I'm a proud Vietnam-era veteran. I had joined Post 7727, which is encompasses Brooklyn, North Brooklyn. Post 7727, veterans of foreign affairs of the United States. Normally, I don't read, but I want to read this. Letter dated February 25th, 2104, to VFW Post members, VFW Post 7727. And I'm not going to read it all entirely, but I'm going to read the highlights. Dear comrades, it is with heavy heart that I must inform you of a sad situation. For the past couple of years, the Post has been operating with a very small group of active members. Due to the lack of attendance at Post meetings, other Post activities, and not being able to elect a complete set of Post officers to keep the charter of the Post in operation by the national organization standards, we must turn our charter into the Department of Ohio headquarters in the national organization. In other words, that is the end of the Post. Now, they have made 4 recommendations for members that are living. Obviously, most of these veterans are Korean, World War II. I want to publicly acknowledge my gratitude as a Vietnam veteran to Post Commander William Reese and past Post Commander Richard Uzo for your service over and above. Semper Fi. I was very interested in seeing an article about potholes and also seeing on television what was known as the pothole killer. This was in the Plain Dealer, and I contacted Mr. Verba, and as usual, Mr. Verba was ahead of the game. He had made attempts and heard about it. Okay, I'm almost there. And he will also make his comments. I would ask that council people pass it on.
Thank you.
Going to wrap it up. Nothing is free. On the contrary, I have a free offer that includes free prescription drug plan. It is known as acronym CAP, Community Assistance Program. The logo is the world with the hands out. You can use the free discount RX card on brand name or generics. All drugs are covered by the card, even smoking cessation, medications, medical supplies, diabetes supplies can be obtained at greatly reduced rates, including insulin strips, needles, DME, and pre-existing condition. The pharmacy is a national in scope. One card can be used for all members. There is no limit on the number of prescriptions. There are no age or income limitations. Anyone can use the card. I have given the council flyers. I asked if there is no ordinance. The extra cards can be obtained. There is a website. There is a contact. Thank you very much for your indulgence. Yours.
Thank you.
Carl Etheridge, 4137 Rabbit Run Drive here in Brooklyn. Tonight I want to share with you why I feel you as our elected officials should support our upcoming school levy. First and foremost, the children and youth need to see that you support and value them. Families considering moving out of Brooklyn need to see that the City Council has put education at the top of their priorities and that they can be persuaded to change their minds and continue to live here. Families looking at moving to our great city must see that there is a top-notch education available for their children. Secondly, you are elected to your position by the men and women of this city to represent their interests, not yours nor commerce. Talk to our citizens, talk to our families with children, and see what they need. Third, I believe that each of you chose to run for the city council because you care about our city and want what is best for it. A strong school is one of the best things for Brooklyn, and the city, our citizens need to see you want this. On June 16, 1858, Abraham Lincoln addressed the Republican delegation in Springfield, Illinois, just a few hours after receiving their nomination to run for U.S. Senate. In his speech, he gives a quote from the Bible, and here is his rationale for using this scripture. The proposition is indisputably true, and I will deliver it as written. I want to use some universally known figure expressed in simple language as universally known, that it may strike home to the minds of men in order to rouse them to the peril of this issue. He was talking about slavery, but today an important issue that we are struggling with is the education of our children. Let me share a portion of his speech. He says, "A house divided against itself cannot stand. I believe this government cannot endure permanently half slave and half free. I do not expect the union to be dissolved. I do not expect the house to fail, but I do expect it will cease to be divided. It will become one thing or one of all the other. Either the opponents of slavery will arrest the further spread of it and place it where the public mind shall rest on the belief that it is in the course of ultimate extinction, or its advocates will push it forward till it shall become alike a law in all the states, old and new, north as well as south. This can be said of our education as well. Our school systems can continue to improve by the support of this levy and future renewal levies for our school system, or it can begin to decline by the lack of your support. We need to not be divided, but unite for our children. Do you support a strong education for our children? Mr. O'Brien, Council President Katie Gallagher's husband, said at his first meeting on the school board that he ran for their child. He shared that he wanted to make sure that when his child enters into the school, that the school system is on track and strong. Voting against the school levy takes that option away from not only Mr. O'Brien and Council President Gallagher's child, but it takes a strong school away from ours and the future of so many children in Brooklyn. A house divided cannot stand. A strong and productive education, a strong school system cannot stand without the support of our city council and the support of our Brooklyn citizens. I'm asking you tonight, not only for my children's education, but for the current and future students of Brooklyn, don't jeopardize their education. Our state doesn't financially support local schools like they should. Don't take out your frustrations toward the state out on our kids. Now, the responsibility of having strong schools rests here at the local level. You are our local leadership. Set the example. Support the levy. Support our children. Take the levy support resolution from the table and agree to put our elected officials' support behind it and keep our children continue to have a sound education. Let Brooklyn show the surrounding communities and the state that we take our children's education seriously, and we will support our kids and our schools. Show your support on May 6th. Vote yes for issue 2, a levy renewal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Etheridge.
Good evening. My name is Earl Blome. I live at 4720 Forest Edge Drive. I'm here to encourage everyone to support the upcoming school levy, which is a renewal with no increase in taxes. Our children are our single most important entity in our city. It is unfortunate that the state funding of schools forces cities like Brooklyn to keep asking its citizens to support school financing through levies, but that is the reality. Brooklyn is considered a rich school district and our citizens are expected to support our schools without any major support from the state. Where the state dumps millions of dollars into the failing Cleveland schools to build new schools, we get nothing and have to pass a bond issue to remodel and upgrade ours. Where the state provides over $6,000 per student to Cleveland, we get less than $500 per student. I mention these figures to show that the major responsibility of supporting our schools and our children rests on the citizens of Brooklyn. The reality is, if we don't support our schools and our children, we can't expect any support from the state, other than they could decide to integrate our school with Cleveland if we can't do the job ourselves. The upcoming levy is a renewal with no increase in taxes and accounts for greater than 13% of our school's budget. Our schools can't spend more than they receive, and if they don't receive this money, significant cuts will have to be made. Cuts in personnel, some of whom may be Brooklyn residents and are union members, and cuts in school activities. We could see the end of such activities as the recent wonderful school musical Annie, that had over 100 students participating in it, and in other areas such as arts and sports. We owe our children the opportunity to obtain the best possible education, and that requires sufficient finances to provide adequate staffing and the opportunity to participate in activities and education beyond the core curriculum, which includes music, arts, sports, and technology. Our school system is the single most important entity for our city, citizens, and most importantly for our children. We can't let them down. And yet, on February 24th, a resolution before council to support, in the support of the school levy and supported by Mrs. Coyne and Mr. DeMarco was tabled by the remainder of council members. I don't understand why. The citizens of Brooklyn look to you, our elected leaders, for direction and leadership. And yet some of you will not come out and support our schools and our children. Failure to support insinuates that you don't support our schools. Hiding behind the statement that you want our citizens to make up their own minds regarding the schools doesn't cut it. You don't take the same attitude at election time when you flood the city with all of your signs and go door to door trying to influence our citizens to vote for you. We are not asking you to go door to door for the levy, only to show our citizens that you support our schools and children and that a strong school system is very important to our city. A strong school system with maximum educational opportunities is the best legacy that we can give our children. I urge council to step up to the plate, show your leadership, and support our school and this renewal levy. The citizens of Brooklyn are looking to you for direction. A strong school benefits everyone in our city, and I encourage you, our leaders, and all of our citizens to support this upcoming renewal levy with no increase in taxes. Please support our children. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bloom. Does anyone else have anything for the good and welfare of the city of Brooklyn? We will now move on to reports of committees, commissions, and boards. First up, we will hear from the Finance Committee, Councilwoman Pucci.
Thank you. The Finance Committee met this evening at 6:15, and as Ms. Gallagher already mentioned, we had our final budget meeting last Tuesday, March 18th. I'm just going to review and summarize what council agreed to regarding the hiring and capital expenditures. Regarding personnel, 3 police officers. The fire department, we're not budgeting any at this time, but that's because we have applied for a grant that possibly could fund additional firefighters. So we'd like to wait and see if we receive funding for that first. Rec center, 1 maintenance person. Service department, 1 laborer. 5 part-time seasonal employees with the provision of keeping 3 of them throughout the end of the year. We recognize that we have to do a better job of upkeep relating to our property and also some beautification efforts. There was a request for an additional secretary to assist in the service department, and because the workload is so seasonal, we've suggested that we instead look at hiring a part-time seasonal person to assist in the peak months. We will also continue to look at the overtime in all departments so we can better determine the financial tipping point between paying for overtime and hiring additional personnel. Regarding the plan on our bond anticipation note, we will pay down 20% this year, which is in line with the agreement that we made last year. This keeps us on track to have this paid off within 5 years. And just an overview of the capital expenditures. Not currently listed is the new engine for the fire department. We have already begun the process, but we haven't included it in this year's budget because we will actually not pay for it until 2015 when it's ready. Turnout gear for the fire department, we're waiting for the results of a grant we applied for, so we cannot include it in our budget. Regardless of whether we receive the grant or not, we will be purchasing turnout gear this year. Also, a vehicle or vehicles for the fire department, depending on what we do with the other vehicles, we may be able to cycle down another vehicle or possibly vehicles to the fire department. We basically need to look at what we currently have and where we end up after we make some purchases. The existing lease expenditures, which are for the tower truck, rec department, HVAC, and windows, is $347,000. And then after that, we have agreed to the following. Police vehicles, $150,000. Equipment, $100,000. The recycle cans and recycle truck lease, this would be another automated system. This will be dependent on whether or not we receive a grant. A VACOL truck, which is on our agenda this evening, exhaust system for the garage, fire alarm system for the service garage, spreader, and plow hitch. For the senior center, we're going to have bocce ball court improvements, which will include an overhead cover. For the rec center, building improvements of $350,000. And in a general area, we have the City Hall ramp, carpet and improvements, vehicles, and the Historical Society parking lot. Approximately $1.2 million in our local street improvements. So that is just an overview of the capital expenditures. Oh, one thing I want to say on the street improvements, we're going to take half of that from a street construction and maintenance fund. Our finance committee meetings are always open to the public. We meet regularly at 6:30 prior to our regular council meetings, and when we alter the time, such as we did this evening, we always post a public notice. One final note, now that the budget is finalized, Mr. Enovich and I will get together and we'll work on monthly reporting, and I will take that back to the finance committee members and also the rest of council, excuse me, so that we can get back on track. And that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Public Safety and Environmental Committee, Mr. Van Kirk.
Thank you, Ms. Gallagher. As Mr. Damsky mentioned, the Safety and Environmental Committee met last Thursday to discuss the speeding problem in Idawood, specifically in Idawood and the Southwood neighborhoods. Several residents spoke and offered both concerns and opinions on the issue. I want to thank all those that attended and took time to help make Brooklyn a safer community. There was some very good dialogue back and forth. People presented several ideas, and I very much appreciate that. I also want to thank Chief Melky and Safety Director for attending and for offering insight on this issue. As was mentioned, Dorian Gruboff from OptoTraffic was here to offer a solution to the continued speeding problem. I'm confident that if we work together, we'll come up with a solution that will help our police make Brooklyn even more safe. The police chief and I have already been in communication since the meeting, and we're going to continue working together on this issue. We'll be having another committee meeting to continue discussing these solutions. When this meeting is scheduled, it will be posted on the city's website and will also be announced in previous council meetings. Any residents who have ideas or concerns about safety can feel free to contact me at my cell phone number, which is 216-965-5737. I know that the administration, along with council and the residents of Brooklyn, are capable of coming up with a solution that is best for Brooklyn without the assistance of any legislatures in Columbus. It is vital that the responsibility for keeping our community safe stays within the city of Brooklyn. So stay posted for future meetings for the Safety Committee. That concludes my report.
Recreation Board, Mr. Tansky.
Thank you. Soccer enrollment has been extended to Wednesday, March 26th. Our next Recreation Board meeting will be held on April 21st, 7 PM in the Mayor's Court. That concludes my report.
School Board Liaison, Mr. Selhertz.
Thank you. On Tuesday, March 11th, they had a pre-demolition tour meeting or walkthrough of the high school vocational wing. It was attended by a number of residents and former students. On Tuesday, March 18th, the Board of Education held its regular monthly meeting at 6 p.m. in room 173 at the high school. A number of student achievement presentations were made. There were presentations made for Ohio Art Education Association Youth Art Month. From grades 3 through 5, you had 6 persons nominated, 6 students. They were Coy Ostromic, Haley Nozak, Kayla Sillinger, Juliana Martinez, Isabel Martinez, and Sienna Jackson. All their work for the students, you could either possibly see it at Case Western Reserve University or at the State Teachers Retirement System Building, Columbus. In grades 6 through 8, you had 5 winners. They were Jerry Oquando, Melina Fernandez, Nadia Jackson, and Brianna Brandt, and Julia Walls. In grades 9 through 12, there was Jessica Gerbeck, and there were 2 Regional Scholastic Art Award winners, Brianna Brandt and Rachel Lewis. Also in the presentations, there was senior wrestler Dominic Meehan. Dominic qualified for Ohio State Wrestling Tournament this year and finished in the top 16 in the state of Ohio. He was presented with a proclamation from the mayor at the board meeting. Second athlete that received recognition was Andrew Gross. Andrew has decided to roll at Ohio Northern University and is being recruited to play wide receiver on their football team. Andrew will be majoring in mechanical technology. The third athlete is sophomore Donovan Pierre-Louis. Donovan was selected to represent Brooklyn High School at the NFL High School Player Development Leadership Program. Donovan participated in a variety of events that focused on character development, life skills, and leadership training at the Cleveland Browns training facility in Berea. Donovan will also be participating in a community service project with other local athletes from the Cleveland area. Next item is, remember Saturday, April 5th, from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., you have at the high school cafeteria Support Our Schools second annual Levy Spaghetti Dinner. Adults $10, kids 12 and under $5. It's spaghetti, salad, roll, dessert, water, coffee, juice. Entertainment's going to be provided by Brooklyn students. There's going to be a 50-50 raffle, baskets, sideboards. Tickets will be available after March 1st by either contacting Jen O'Banion at 216-374-5126 or at the board office. There also may be, I've mentioned before, the board holds work sessions. There may be a work session on Monday, April 7th. I'm not sure if it's going to be held or not. Please, call up the board office to find out. Their work sessions are similar to our finance committee meetings, kind of like where the meat and potatoes goes of what's going on with the district. From what I understand with this next work session, it's going to be with the bid contracts for the school project, so it might be an interesting thing to go to. As I mentioned before, I'd like to see the board actually put it on their leader alert system or at least on their calendar so people can attend and understand, have a better idea of how the schools are operating with it. There's also going to be a blood drive held at the high school in April. Walk-ins are welcome, but for faster service, please call ahead. You can call 485-1100, extension 8503. Please remember that there is the upcoming school renewal levy that you've heard about in the beginning of May. And we also have Winter Scholastic Award, Athlete Award winners. You have 10 in grade 12, 7 in grade 11, 16 in grade 10, and 14 in grade 9. The board also resolved in their meeting on the 18th to approve a bid from Vasco Sports Contractors for real field renovations at the athletic complex at a cost of $705,500. And the last thing I have is, please remember the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, that they have their scholarship applications. The deadline is April 5th. Completed packets must be postmarked by April 4th, 2014. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. The Domestic Abuse Commission had a meeting scheduled for March 12th that was canceled because of the snowstorm. The Planning Commission will meet Thursday, April 3rd at 6 p.m. in the Brooklyn City Hall Conference Room to hear requests from Rough Neon and Lighting Maintenance Incorporated to place additional illuminated sign panels on the existing freestanding multiple sign panel for identification of Ridge Park Square businesses located at 4768 Ridge Road, permanent parcel 43307-008. It looks like this includes a sign for Ashley Furniture, and I'm sorry, Mr. Fitzgerald, I just got the packet tonight. Does this also include Lowe's?
Yes, they're going to rearrange the signs they're going to rearrange the signs and add Ashley Furniture to it.
Okay. Second, a request from B Next Awnings and Graphics Incorporated to place a new illuminated pole signage and canopy signage located at 4295 Tiedemann Road for business identification of Satmeyer Oil Company, or otherwise known as Sunoco, permanent parcel 43208-013. And finally, to hear requests from TDA Architecture for a 107,000 square foot new building construction of the middle school and elementary school located at 9200 Bidoff Road. Permanent parcel numbers 432-13001, 432-13002, 432-13005. This is actually a follow-up from the original meeting to talk about the fence around the detention basin and the traffic study that was requested previously by the Planning Commission. Next, we will move on to reports from council. First up, Mr. Tansky.
Thank you. We had a safety meeting on Thursday, March 20th. The subject was on traffic cameras on Idlewood and possible other camera sites in Brooklyn. The traffic camera issue has been controversial throughout many cities in Ohio in many ways, from issuing tickets in excess of 15 miles an hour or less, and now 10 miles an hour or less in some areas. I'm opposed to any camera light, and I do not want our city to become infested like East Cleveland and Cleveland. The residents who attend the meeting on Thursday also had questions and concerns about the cameras. I also believe that cameras in the state of Ohio will eventually be outlawed. And if it becomes a legal issue or a constitutional battle, then let the people of Ohio vote on a statewide election. This is not about taking power away from any city or state government. Rather, it's about listening to the majority of our taxpayers who put us in these elected offices in the first place. This is a very controversial topic, and I believe that democracy should hold its place. Senate Bill 5 is a good example of exercising our right to vote and be heard on a statewide ballot. This issue was also passed by state legislation and was overturned by the public. Just a reminder that it's not too late to register for the Summer Youth Employment Program. To register, go to www.youthopportunities.org. Registration closes Friday, April 4th at 5 p.m. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Mr. Selhertz.
Thank you. Tonight on the agenda, you have ordinance number 2014-20, authorizing the purchase of one VACOL street sweeper with a 2012 Freightliner cab and chassis and associated equipment from Best Equipment for a purchase price of $239,166. This is being requested to be passed by emergency since there's an opportunity for significant savings. The price of the unit is $266,625, less a 7% discount of $18,754, leaving a total contract price of $249,166. We're also getting a trade-in on the current VAC of $10,000, leaving us with a purchase price of $239,166. The VACOL is a piece of equipment that is multi-purpose that sweeps streets, cleans sewers, and vacuums leaves. The current one used by the service department burns roughly 14 quarts of oil a day. To do nothing and keep the current one alone in repairs was estimated to cost around $65,000 for this year. In the beginning of the budget process, a new truck was estimated to cost between $275,000 and $280,000. The 2012 truck being bought is a new truck, never titled or used. I will also be calling 1 or 2 Public Works Committee meetings in the near future for several items. The first involves gathering the information together for a new snowplow for next year. The salt snow truck would be similar as to those we saw in Brecksville, which in the fall can be equipped for automated leaf collection, thus freeing up 2 or 3 men from at least one crew to do other things. We also try to get the process started in the next month or 2, since the whole going out to bid process and actually acquiring the vehicle can take from 9 to 12 months. We would be into the next year and also at that point the 2015 budget. The other item is to look at what roads will be worked on in 2015. A number of streets have been approved for 2014 in budget meetings we've held in the past few weeks. The problem is that we're already 3 months into this year and it will still take a number of weeks to get specs ready for the bid to go out to contractors. As you may have seen, orange barrels are up everywhere and people are working and we have not even started yet. We will try not to have this happen next year and get our bids out earlier and maybe even get a work started earlier if possible, save $1 or $2. Since the last council meeting, I have also attended one more focus group meeting. This group consisted of high school students who expressed their concerns. Before I report to council, I would like to meet with the school board president to discuss what I've heard and observed. We were supposed to meet late last week, but her schedule did not permit that. There were some good comments from the students about a few of the officers at the schools. And also some comments from the students expressing their frustrations about a number of items. There's also another focus group this Thursday scheduled at 6 p.m. in the conference room at City Hall, where a number of young professional residents have been invited to get their perspective on the city as where it is now and where it can be. The last item I have is Mr. Verber is also working on getting some lighting estimates for the garage, which is desperately needed, as I mentioned in my last report. On Wednesday, I'm going to be meeting with him and one other individual just to get some ideas and try to get a couple of comparison bids on the process. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Mr. Selhart's mentioned the streets. I don't think, Kathy, did you mention the streets that are going to get repaired?
I didn't mention the specific streets, I mentioned the amount.
Okay. The streets that are scheduled for repair this year are Rodone South, Bentwood North and South, and Outlook North and South. Okay, we'll move on to Mr. DeMarco.
Good evening. I want to thank Mr. Etheridge and Mr. Blom for their comments regarding the support of the school levy. I think I've been pretty clear on where I stand on that. I do want to make one correction if I can, and Mrs. Pucci, you can correct me. I believe it was Mrs. Pucci and I that were in support of the resolution. I think you said in error Mrs. Coyne. So if I'm wrong on that, you can certainly correct me. Also, I was just notified this evening that there will be a fish fry at the Senior Center on Friday, April 4th from 5 to 8 p.m. Tickets must be purchased in advance. You can call the Senior Center at 635-4222. I'd just like to make some brief comments regarding Ordinance 2014-10, which is our annual appropriations ordinance. I will not be supporting the ordinance this evening for a host of reasons that I'm really not going to bore all of you with. But one that stands out, as the council president mentioned earlier this evening, is that our spending will be up $4,748,164 this year. That's estimated. You know, our artificially high resident-approved tax rate is giving some a false sense of security and creating complacency when it comes to economic development, which are jobs. The budget we are being asked to approve tonight addresses some immediate needs that we have, but does not contemplate addressing future issues I've been talking about for several years now. The future of Brooklyn is today. So all of you, including myself, deserve more from our elected officials and should be demanding real solutions to the unique issues facing our city. Don't sit back and accept what is being said and done. Challenge all of us to do better. This is your city. And I believe that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Van Kirk.
Thank you, Mrs. Gallagher. Just a couple things, you know, in regards to the safety meeting. I already talked about it. The safety meeting was here to offer solutions to a problem that was presented to the safety committee. We got together, I offered a solution. I encourage any other resident, council person who has any legal ideas to present their ideas as well. There is a stigma that comes with cameras. I understand that. You know, we have a neighboring city that people are talking about with their cameras. Anytime there's new technology that comes out, there's always concerns. The same concerns were brought out whenever stoplights came to being, when it came to traffic controlling with stoplights. There were concerns about that as well. And so obviously, as this technology develops, it can be used to help make the city a safer place. As was mentioned in the safety meeting, I will defer to the chief. When it comes to issues of safety, that is what he does. That is his job. I already said that at the safety meeting. I'm working with him to try to offer a solution to a problem. If the solution to that problem does not involve mobile cameras, then so be it. But we're trying to help to make the residents of the city safe. As far as the thing with the state legislature goes, I am a firm supporter in home rule. It is the law of the Constitution of Ohio. Article 18 clearly spells it out in the Ohio Constitution, and I'm not going to bore you with the constitutional details, but I am a firm believer in the Constitution, and we as the city of Brooklyn have the right to home rule, meaning if we decide that mobile cameras are what is best for the city of Brooklyn, when I say we, that means the police chief, the administration, we get to make that decision. If the state does decide to go ahead and pass with some legislation that is in the Senate right now, I don't think it's going to pass, but if it does pass, it will get challenged and will more than likely be overturned by the Ohio Supreme Court in violation of home rule. And so that's just a couple of issues. If you have any questions on that, please feel free to call me. I'd have no problem talking about it. As far as as Mr. DeMarco mentioned, the budget was presented, and I will be voting in favor of passing the budget. We are increasing spending this year. I did not agree necessarily with all of the spending that was increased, but a lot of it have to do with capital purchases for equipment that is sorely needed. For years, the city's garage in particular has been working with equipment that is old, is run down, because we simply have not had the funds to purchase it. We do have the funds for that now, and so to continue providing the services the city of Brooklyn has offered, we have to make improvements by buying new equipment. A lot of the increase in payroll is coming, increase in money is coming from payroll, and that's because we're adding police officers, 3 police officers to the police force. Mrs. Gallagher already mentioned why we need more police officers. Just look at the numbers. I mean, the police are doing a fantastic job. They need more help. And of course, some of the other personnel that we're adding are to offer better service to the city of Brooklyn. Mrs. Pucci has already read through the capital expenditures for this year. I'm pleased that even if all these purchases that are budgeted are made, we'll still have about $1.8 million left in the capital budget for next year. I do want to thank Mr. Enovich and his staff for all their hard work on the budget. I know this is a new thing for them this year, and they worked very hard for it. I met with Dan and the mayor personally, one-on-one, to discuss several concerns that I had. They both spent as much time as needed answering questions, explaining different areas. We didn't agree on everything, and that's fine. We're not going to, but that's how Republic works. He's also offered some great ideas for changing, particularly how we make capital expenditures into the future, getting the safety committee involved more, getting the public works committee involved more, getting all the committees involved more. And I look forward to seeing those ideas implemented. And again, while I don't agree with everything that's included in this budget, I am confident that it's a good budget. It'll serve the residents of Brooklyn well. My major concern, obviously, is replacing revenue loss from American Greetings, but I'm confident that we will continue making headway on that this year as well. And with that, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Pucci.
Thank you. Ms. Gallagher, first I'd like to offer my personal condolences to the Scarano family on the passing of Mrs. Dolores Scarano. Frank and Dolores Scarano were not just longtime residents of our community, they were longtime residents who were extremely devoted to our community. And in addition to being finance director, Mr. Scarano was also the clerk of council, and I believe for a short period of time also served as the safety director. They were longtime family friends, and I was honored to have Mr. Scarano administer my oath of office several times. So I'd just like to extend my personal sympathies to the Scarano family. I had some complaints relating to the water outages, and I talked to Mr. Verba. I thank him for the explanation. Basically, as they prepare for the next section of construction on Ridge Road, the water department has to make some alterations. I think it's mostly to the height of where the water lines are. So they're going street by street, and the first street, which was Glencoe, I think, went off without a hitch. The impacted residents were notified ahead of time that the outage was going to be during an overnight period, no problems at all. However, when they got to Traymore, they encountered some particular problem that caused them to have to shut off the water to 30 additional homes that were not notified. So I did ask Mr. Verba, as we go through each street, if he could ask the water department to not only notify the homes that they know for sure will be impacted, but either an additional notice or, something on the bottom of the notice indicating information to the other homes that, hey, we don't think you're going to be impacted, but just a heads up, you might be. So if you have anything to expand on that, you can do during your report, but thanks for the explanation. I appreciate that. I'd like to thank everyone who spoke this evening, and Mr. DeMarco already did clarify that I was the member of council that introduced the ordinance or the resolution of support for the school renewal. I'm on record as supporting this renewal levy. I recognize the role that a strong school system plays as being a part of a strong community. And speaking of the election, if you are interested in voting by mail, once again, they will not mail an application out to you automatically. You will have to either call them and have them send you one, or you can go to the various public locations and get an application and send them in. We've got them at City Hall, the Senior Center, and they're also at the library. So if you want to vote by mail, you need to take the initiative and send in the application. On March 11th, I attended the school district council meeting, and I thank Mrs. Walker, who's actually here this evening. The primary focus of the meeting was an update on the construction project. And there was an article in the paper regarding the proposal to reduce the municipal income tax rate, and I just want to clarify what my position is. I support reducing the income tax rate. In fact, I put this in writing to all the residents in Brooklyn during my 2011 campaign. However, I do believe this needs to be done under certain conditions. The first scenario, which in my mind is preferable, is to establish a comprehensive economic development plan to attract desirable employers to our city, along with a method and timeline to execute the plan. A couple of years ago, I established a strategic planning committee that all of council participated in. One of the main goals was to develop a plan for how we were going to replace the jobs we will lose in the city when American Greetings leaves. I believe it would be accurate to say that there was a majority of council who supported a more proactive approach. However, we were not on the same page as the administration as far as this goes, so we weren't able to accomplish anything. The second scenario would be to reduce the municipal income tax once our budget has stabilized, after we're able to determine the revenue we will receive from the American Greetings properties. I fully understand the economic development benefits of reducing the rate. However, I believe without a plan in place, I do not think it would produce the desired benefit. And I believe that completes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Pucci. Mrs. Balbier.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Gallagher. Friends of Big Creek sponsored a St. Pat's weekend hike March 15th, which I participated along with Councilman Andy Selchertz and Council President Katie Gallagher. We explored Brooklyn's Oxbow, its wetlands and woodlands, and it's a truly hidden treasure, and it's located behind the fire station, also known as the Kingdom. I was living here 27 years, and I'm sorry to say I've never known about it until this last time, and it was just amazing. Brooklyn is one of the Big Creek watershed cities. A watershed is an area of land that drains into a waterway. Maintaining a healthy watershed is vital for a clean environment. Changes to our natural landscape have degraded watersheds. Urban growth, in particular, has made hard surfaces such as rooftops, lawns, parking lots, and roads, reducing the land's ability to absorb rainfall and snow melt. Instead, water rushes off these areas, picking up pesticides, oil, and other toxins. This increases flooding and soil erosion, damaging habitats and polluting our sources of drinking water. Brooklyn's Oxbow is a unique wetland habitat. John Rayner, a Cleveland Metro Parks wetland ecologist, along with Bob Garden, who is a project manager for the Friends of Big Creek, took us on a tour of the wetlands behind the fire station. It was a fascinating hike. I learned that our wetlands are becoming very healthy and are considered a level 2 wetland, which means that amphibians are now able to survive in these wetland areas. In our Brooklyn Oxbow, all types of wildlife can be found there. Recently spotted were fox dens and wild turkey. On Saturday, May 31st, from 9 to 12, Friends of Big Creek will be sponsoring a watershed cleanup. Please meet behind Brooklyn Fire Station. Dress, of course, for the weather. Bags and gloves will be provided. And any questions that you may have about this, you can call Friends of Big Creek at 216-661-7706. Last Thursday, March 20th, a safety meeting was held in Brooklyn City Council chambers. Main discussion was possibly putting speed cameras throughout the city, concentrating on Idlewood and Southwood, which are considered high-traffic cut-throughs because of construction. Our resident turnout for this meeting was poor. Prior to the meeting, flyers were distributed to every house on Idlewood and Southwood, announcing the safety meeting and encouraging residents to attend the meeting and to voice their opinions. Anyone who did not attend this meeting but is concerned about what we discussed, the traffic cameras, please get in touch with me, Mary Balbier, Kevin Tansky, Andy Selchertz, or Mr. Van Kirk. We would love to hear your impact. Lastly, I'm hoping that our wonderful city of Brooklyn could start a farmer's market. There are markets springing up everywhere throughout neighboring cities. It gives people an opportunity to purchase fresh produce from local growers and entrepreneurs. I welcome all opinions and ideas pertaining to this, and I can be reached at home at 351-3776. I'd also like to thank Mr. Enovich for all his hard work during this budget process. I truly appreciate all his ideas and all his work. He worked so hard, and I can only say we are so lucky to have such a fine finance director as him. Thank you, Mr. Enovich. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mrs. Balbier. And you know I'm your biggest advocate for a farmer's market, so if you need any help making that a reality.
I hope so.
I also attended the school district council meeting on March 11th with Mrs. Pucci. It seems like the school is moving along nicely on their very tight construction timeline. They hope to have the construction of the new school and demolition of the old school complete by the 2015-2016 school year. This Thursday, I'm excited to moderate the Young Professionals Focus Group as part of the Marketing Steering Committee. If you're a young professional and interested in attending, please email me at kagallagher@brooklynohio.gov or call me at 216-469-2561. I do want to make one comment about tonight's budget before we vote. I realize that our staff levels are lower than in the past, but I truly feel like we need to take a hard look at some of the departments before we hire. I am not saying that our employees are not busy. I'm going to say that again. I'm not saying that our employees are not busy, so don't misinterpret that. But what I'm saying is that we need to start looking at each job in the most efficient and effective manner that utilizes technology more. We can start eliminating duplicated work or streamlining processes to eliminate needless steps. And that's all I have for tonight, and then we'll move on to the mayor's report.
Thank you, Mrs. Gallagher. I just want to remind everybody once again that they're going to have that Heroin in the Suburbs talk at the Brooklyn Library. That's on April 30th at 7 p.m. I think it would be very interesting to attend that. Last Wednesday, I was invited to Positively Cleveland at the Cleveland Convention Center. And I went there, and it was very well attended. I'd say there must have been 1,500 people there. And they had a marketing company that's supposed to market Cleveland to the United States to draw visitors here. And the speaker said that the people in Cleveland don't realize what we have here. First of all, there's only 15 cities in the United States that has all 3 sport teams. Cleveland's one of them. We're the smallest, but we're one of the 15. We also have a world-known orchestra. They're rated third best in the world. We have world-class restaurants, world-class chefs. We have the lake. We have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We have museums, the art, the history, and the science museum. Now we have this convention center, and they're going after the national conventions for the Republicans or the Democrats. And they said the only thing bigger than that draws people to your city is the Super Bowl, and they're still in the running for both of these. We have the West Side Market, the casino, we have world-class hospitals, and the list goes on and on. But he said the trouble with Cleveland is that the people themselves don't realize this, and they took surveys, and only 34% of the people would recommend to other people that don't live here to make Cleveland a destination for a vacation, whereas in Pittsburgh, it's 60% of the people invite people to come. So they said we have to change our attitude. And then they showed us the advertisements that they're using in Pittsburgh and Chicago and in Indianapolis to bring people into Cleveland. The annual report was turned in by the rec center. They took in $569,593 at the gate. The parking permits were $3,945. Silver Sneakers brought in $22,593. So they had a total of $596,593. They sold daily passes of $18,583, and they sold membership of $12,091. The Cuyahoga County Board of Health also turned in their annual report for Brooklyn. Excuse me. It's 17 pages long, and everything's broken down into hours. So I told them to leave the report at the front desk if anybody cares to look at it. And our municipal income tax due date is Tuesday, April 15th. And the school levy. I mean, I've supported, I believe, every school levy that's come up since I've been here. And this one's no different. I wholly support the school levy. I realize that in a city, you can't just have a good government and a poor school system, or vice versa. You need both of them to have a successful city, and that's what we need, and the only way we can get it is to keep supporting the school, so I'm 100% behind the school levy, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Mayor. Next, we'll hear from our Finance Director, Dan Enovich.
Thank you, Council President Gallagher, members of council. First of all, I want to extend my appreciation to all of you for your patience and your support in the budget process, Mayor and his staff. And I think that what I gained from it, my takeaway was how collaboration could lead to success. I think the work session was an excellent example of that, and I look forward to continuing that as we continue through this administration and council relationship. I do want to clarify a few things. I've heard some numbers kicked around. I think I might have misled you on the basis for our budget numbers. When we started, we began with the temporary budget, which I introduced back in November. If you recall, I said that was the cornerstone on which we're going to start. That did not include any capital expenditures. So out of the multiple spreadsheets that you've probably reviewed that I've handed you, if you use that as a basis to go off of this year's budget, I apologize for misleading you. But I would like to share with you some of the numbers that I have come up with. The actual total budget, the appropriation budget for this year is $25,448,969. Now, compared to council's final appropriation for last year was $24,444,473. So out of the entire fund, general fund, the difference is about $1,004,496. That's the difference. Your budget increase from last year's budget to this year's budget is about $1 million. But more specifically, the fund which runs the city, where we have our salary and wages, and the general fund, last year council appropriated $16,145,460.81. That was your final general fund appropriation. This year we're asking for an appropriation of $16,500,000. 1 second there. $16,500,000 $520,055.16. Now, that's about a $374,575 increase of about only 2%. So with your, once again, collaboration led to success. We were able to work our general fund to only a 2% increase and get the resources that we were driving for. So once again, I apologize for any of the basis of our other numbers that we had. Finally, today, just to keep consistent with what I always report, year-to-date, our general fund revenues have been $4,412,959. Our general fund expenses for the same period have been $3,618,519, and our total cash balance is, $22,474,037. Finally, I want to personally thank Joanne Haig, who's sitting up there serving tonight. She's serving as the clerk of council, but she's been a tremendous support since I came on board. Please, you have to appreciate the frustration sometimes that I experienced. My personality sometimes leads to outbursts, and council never realized them, the mayor never realized them. But Joanne she was my rudder. She kept me straight, told me, don't worry, it's going to be okay, and I appreciate that very much. That concludes my report.
Thank you. We will now move on to requests. First, we have a liquor permit request from St. Theodosius Ridge Manor for beer only. Need a position of no objections.
Move for a position of no objection.
Second.
For no objection to the liquor permit, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Abstain.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belbeer.
Yes.
Next, we'll move on to legislation. First up is ordinance 2014-10. This is our annual appropriations ordinance, which makes appropriations for current and other expenditures for the City of Brooklyn, State of Ohio, for the period of January 1st, 2014 to December 31st, 2014. We're going to first amend it because we have numerous changes from the original, and then because there are revisions after the second reading. Our rules require that we either extend it another reading or vote to suspend the rules, which we are going to do tonight, and adopt it under the emergency clause. First, I will make a motion to amend ordinance 2014-10 to include changes in capital items in the fire department, which was amended from $600,000 to $0, from the general capital, which was increased from $10,000 to $260, the recreation center, which was increased from $150,000 to $350,000, and the service department was increased from $344,084 to $839,000. After modifications, the overall capital improvement budget was revised from $2,697,084 to $2,686,084. The total general fund expenditure was amended from $15,947,803 to $16,520,6616. Additional $110,000 was to be transferred from the general fund to the bond retirement fund for a total of $290,000 to reflect the change from 10% principal and interest reduction for outstanding notes, which was to a 20% reduction. Lastly, the total appropriation for all funds and expenses was amended from $24,194,937.42 to $25,448,969.37. Now, these are just the basics. There's a lot of details. If anybody wants the specific ordinance, please call the finance department or city hall and you can get a copy. So I need a second to this motion.
Second.
To amend ordinance 2014-10, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
No.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belbeer.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Introduced by all, suspend the rules.
As amended. Second.
To suspend the rules, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belbeer.
Yes.
To adopt, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
No.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belbeer.
Yes.
Next, we have ordinance 2014-12, determining the gross receipts from the Brooklyn Municipal Income Tax to be deposited into the general capital improvement, termination leave payments, and retrospective medical claims funds. I will make a motion to amend Section 1 to read effective April 1st, 2014. It is hereby determined to deposit 84% of the annual gross receipts of the Brooklyn Municipal Income Tax into the general fund, 15% into the capital improvement fund, 1% into the termination leave payment fund, and 0% into the retrospective medical claims fund.
Second.
Correct.
To amend ordinance 2014-12, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bell Beer.
Yes.
Introduced by all, suspend the rules as amended.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bell Beer.
Yes.
To adopt, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bell Beer.
Yes.
Next is an ordinance that permits residents to enter the neighbor's yard with prior notice to make repairs to their own property when it's reasonably necessary. I need a motion to approve 2014-13, enacting Section 1371, entering of adjoining property damage, and adding to Chapter 13, Title 3, Building Code of the Brooklyn City Ordinance.
Motion to approve.
Second.
To adopt, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bell Beer.
Yes.
Next, we have changes to the monthly resident passes for the recreation center. The rates for a monthly pass are $35 for adults, $60 for husband and wife, $70 for family, $45 for a single parent family, $20 for a senior, and $35 for a corporate pass. It is amending ordinance 2014-15, amending section 4 of ordinance 2010-26, entitled Establishing General Admission Rates at the John M. Coyne Recreation Center and Auditorium. This is on second reading. Next is ordinance 2014-17, amending section 541-15, deposit of snow of chapter 541, property offenses of the Brooklyn Codified Ordinances.
May I be recognized?
Yes.
We had discussion about this at our last council meeting, and I did speak with Mr. Tansky about this, so I'm going to make a motion that we amend this as follows. Under Section A, the fourth line down, that we insert the word other property, so it would read landscaping of any, and then insert other property. Also striking the last sentence, city snowplow operations are exempt from this section. Then we'll add B, which would read no person, company, contractor, or private snow removal company removing snow from any driveway or sidewalk within the city shall deposit the same on the pavement or sidewalk of any public street or on any tree lawn in any public street, except the tree lawn immediately in front of the premises from which the snow is removed. Then the B would then become a C. And I spoke with Mr. Fitzgerald about this, because if we keep the proposed amendment how it's stated, we will have the ability to address someone putting snow on private property, but we'll lose the ability to enforce them putting snow on public property. And we also want to keep the ability for residents to put snow from their property onto the tree lawn in front of their home.
I'll second that motion to amend. No, we'll keep that on second reading.
We should
still have to
vote on the
Vote.
amendment, though.
Okay. To amend ordinance 2014-17, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Bell Beer.
Yes.
As I stated, that is on second reading. Ordinance 2014-19, authorizing the mayor to enter into a service agreement renewal with Bailey Communications Incorporated to provide maintenance of network, software, support, and other related services for the city of Brooklyn.
Introduced by all, suspend the rules.
Second.
Suspend the rules, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belbeer.
Yes.
To adopt, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belbeer.
Yes.
Last up is ordinance 2014-20, authorizing the purchase of one backhaul street sweeper 2012 Freightliner cab and chassis and associated equipment from Best Equipment in the amount of $239,166.
Introduced by all, suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belbeer.
Yes.
Can I be recognized very quick before we vote?
Yes.
All right, just to clarify why we're passing this by emergency, this is already budgeted for in the budget for a new backhoe and street sweeper. But Mr. Verba came across one that was already ready to go that we could purchase and put into action immediately. And so we want to pass this by emergency so that we can get it, ready to go and get on our streets, just to clarify for the residents. Thank you.
And to adopt, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belbeer.
Yes.
Well, thank you, everybody. Before council adjourns to executive session, does anyone on council or any of the director have anything they'd like to say? I'm sorry, Chief.
I wanted to respond to Mr. Dansky's questions. Mr. Dansky, I don't know the particulars or if there was a delay. I need to take a look at those runs and the times for Sunday to find out what they're responding to and if there was in fact a delay. State law states that with lights and siren going, we can only pass to the left of the vehicle. To try and go to the right of any stopped vehicle would almost be suicidal because at the last minute, the operator of that vehicle can all of a sudden say, oh, I'm supposed to go to the right. And then pull to the right and then we hit somebody. I don't know what the way the cones are. I think, in my interpretation, would be that the motorists there are fearful of going into that construction zone to give us that one lane to pass. All I can say is if we can avoid those construction areas, we certainly do. If the calls are within that vicinity, we have to respond through those construction sites and just be very cautious because there are times we are going left to center. And that's all we can do. But I will get back to you as far as if there was a delay experienced in that response. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. As a reminder, no action will be taken when council reconvenes from executive session. I will now make two separate motions to adjourn to executive session. First motion to adjourn to executive session relating to the sale of public property. And this session will include the mayor, finance director, building commissioner, law director, and economic development director.
Second.
To go into executive session for the sale of public property, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belbeer.
Yes.
I'll make a second motion. Council adjourns to executive session regarding a matter of personnel where the mayor and law director will be present.
Second.
To go into executive session for matters of personnel, Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Andy Selhertz.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Ron Van Kirk.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Mary Belbeer.
Yes.
Council, if you can please go to the conference room sooner than later because it's going to be a long night.